I'm going to prove to you how advertising has influenced everyone in this room today. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to give you 3 slogans that companies use to help sell their products. As I say them, keep track of how many you can recognize and what companies came up with this slogan. First one is Zoom Zoom. Second, Eat Fresh. Third is Just Do It. So, by the show of hands, how many of you can recognize at least one of those slogans? Everybody in the room. So I proved my point. The companies are actually making you think about a product by a slogan that they've produced. So, these companies are, Zoom Zoom is Mazda. It's a car company. Eat Fresh, Subway, for food. And Just Do It is Nike, for apparel, shoes, clothing, any accessories. Advertising companies, they did their job. Even though I just mentioned a few slogans, your brain was able to relate that slogan to think about the company. Which now you're probably thinking about food, which is making you hungry, or the new pair of shoes that you're going to need to buy because yours are worn out, or maybe even a new car. Americans fall into advertising traps each day. After researching the subject, I noticed that advertising is everywhere. For example, even doing the research and looking at the statistics, I've noticed on one website 3 advertisements for the same company. They just had different pictures. But you know what? They got my attention because I looked at all 3 of them. When we see advertisements, we see them on billboards, we see them on commercials, and we see them in newspapers. And there's many other sources. But I'm going to give you an example of how advertising affects and what the costs are. So for instance, during the Big Bang Theory, the popular show on CBS, when it first came out, for a 30-second commercial, $344,000 just for one 30-second commercial. In New York, they have a digital billboard that's on Broadway. It runs from 45th Street to 46th Street. $2.5 million for 4 weeks. And then the New York Times, to post one advertisement, colored advertisement, for a month, $50,000. It's a lot of money. The companies are trying to get you to buy their products. I ask you to listen with an open mind as I discuss the problems associated with advertising. We live in a world of temptation. The advertising companies entice us to buy fast food, clothing, vehicles, and miscellaneous items we don't even need. The real question is, how do we let these companies influence what we buy? Let's look at the cost of what some companies have done to actually produce their advertisement. As I mentioned before, 30-second commercial was $344,000. The newspaper ads, $50,000. And the billboard was $2.5 million. So now that we've seen the extent of the problem, let's explore the solution. There are 3 major causes of this problem. Pressures of living in certain social status, okay, which consist of maybe the type of neighborhood you want to live in, the car you want to drive, the clothing you want to wear, or the newest phone that came out on the market. People want to fit in. Advertisement has caused this problem. People live outside their means to fit in and feel accepted, when all we're doing is creating debt, living a paycheck to paycheck, and creating undue stress upon ourselves. A second is how our brain processes this information. An article from Psychology Today states that marketing research has established that most consumers' decisions are memory-based. You buy something because you remember as a persuasive ad for it, just like I mentioned earlier. Another article from trendtech.com states emotional advertising is the most effective form of creating product recall and increased sales. Our brain will always produce the emotional factors first and then create a link that will not be easily erased as we move from as we see the same thing. It becomes more ingrained in our brains. So we see it all the time. It's repetitive. That's how these advertisements get in our head. So now that so how do we stop the advertising from controlling what we buy? There are 3 major steps that we can take. First thing to do is start a budget. watch where we spend our money. Okay? We need to create a limit on how much we spend each day, each week, and each month. This will allow us to save money. Second, we need to create a list when we go shopping, not just for food, but for other items also. This will help reduce impulse shopping and the amount of time that you spend. And it distinguishes from your needs versus your wants. The third thing is a meal plan. According to projectmeal.com, there are 3 important reasons we need to meal prep. The first thing being time, so we're going to save time. Second one is our health, and the third is the money. Think about how amazing it would be to wake up in the morning, grab your breakfast, then grab your lunch, and when you get home, your dinner's already prepared because you already prepped it. This will reduce the multiple purchases from the fast food chains and keep that money in your pocket. In conclusion, every year thousands of people spend thousands of dollars on money and things that they don't need. Yet the companies are making millions of dollars in sales and profit. There is no way to stop advertisement, but we have complete control over what we purchase and how we spend our money. So stop falling for advertising. Now that you know a little bit more about how advertisement affects our lives, ask a simple question next time you buy something. Did the advertising companies influence me to buy it? Thank you.